You're listening to the Jonker Talk podcast. This podcast is brought to you by MC242 IPR MSA UITM Malacca chapter as an assignment for PRO549. Remember, Jonker Walk is a place, Jonker Talk is us.
Hey there! Welcome back to Jonker Talk, where every Thursday we ramble on about everything and anything. Will you sit back and brew your favorite cup of caffeine as you listen to our inner thoughts? I'm your host Marisa Nabila, and right now you're tuning into part of our United Nations MDG series, where each week we talk about one theme out of all 8 Millennium Development Goals. Anyway, for this week's episode, I'm going to talk about MDG number 3, which is promoting gender equality and empowering women. Which is why this week's podcast is titled #Women to Women Uncovering the Patriarchy. I know, it sounds really dramatic, right? But I really liked creating my title because it's like I'm talking to you, women, as a woman myself. So, like, woman to woman, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's the twister, folks. Today, I'm not just trying to send a message to the ladies. I'm here to talk to the dudes as well. Because, as my title suggests, we're going to try to delve into this patriarchal system. Like, what is a patriarchal system? And who exactly does it affect? Is it only women that are negatively impacted by this? Or maybe it has its effects on men as well? I'm sure some of you have heard it too in like movie lines where they would quote it, "Down with the patriarchy." You know, it's always connotated negatively. So have you ever wondered why it's like that? I bet you have. So this is what we'll try to discover today together. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, in order to understand patriarchy, we first have to know what it means. So, according to a CNN article I've read recently, patriarchy derives from a Greek word, patriarchis, which literally means rule of the father. So, to quote a renowned American sociologist, Ellen Johnson, a society is patriarchal to the degree that it promotes male privilege by being male-dominated, male-identified, male-centered. Basically, everything revolves around the men. So, how exactly did this system start? Surely something must have triggered it. I'll fill you guys in with the history of where the patriarchal rule started through a somewhat summarized storytelling based on a BBC article that I've read by Angela Saini. So, in true human nature, where we love to base our hypotheses by referencing our relatives in the animal kingdom like the apes, anthropologist Melissa Emery Thompson, I think, observed that intergenerational family relationships in primates are actually consistently organized through mothers, not fathers. So the further we dive into prehistory, the more we find that societies back then, such as Çatalhöyük, which is now southern Anatolia of Turkey, all the archaeological data points to a place where gender had no difference to how people lived. Like the way that they eat, the diet, the time they spent indoors and outdoors, it's all the same thing. Like there's no difference amongst themselves. Even their height barely had any differences. But of course, this way of life didn't really stick around forever. Somewhere along the lines, like over years later, social hierarchies crept into this part of the region, and then it spreads across modern-day Europe, Asia, the Middle East, so then even more thousands of years later, like the cities in ancient Athens, entire cultures started to develop misogynistic myths that women were weak and they can't be trusted. It's better confined at home. Thing is, how did it change from embracing the matrilineal line to belittling women as the weaker gender? So, to summarize it, anthropologists suggest that this is because of the rise in agriculture field, where physical strength is really important, and we all know that men are just scientifically um, benefited in that area. So, agriculture requires a lot of strength, and it opens way to collecting wealth and property, and they needed that to survive, you know. And this was during the times of war as well, where it's really important to keep your lineage and your families. So this is where it started, where women had to sit at home and just create more babies to create more men to fight in the war. You know, this is why it's basically centered on that. And they began to restrict women's sexual freedom. So, to put it simply, over time, as society started progressing during these early agrarian states, the immense amount of pressure is being put on families to maintain population levels. So, that it seems that the patriarchy in modern day it has lasting effects due to the old history of where it started, especially in terms of freedom, violence, and overall perception towards women's ability, since they're only expected to be homemakers and have babies and looking after other people before themselves. Like the social norms that were created thousands of years ago became today's gender stereotypes, like women are naturally caring and nurturing, and men are just naturally violent and suited for war. So, without a lot of us realizing, by confining people into these narrow gender roles, patriarchy disadvantages not just women, but men as well. Because that's the intention. It was never to just solely serve men. It's not that. It's actually to serve those at the very top, which are society's elites. And now we can see that modern day patriarchy manifests itself in many varied forms, and we can see this by diving into a few case studies around the globe. I won't go too much into it because there's way too many, so I'll just go by with a few examples that I have, but I'll be sure to make it able to fill you in with just enough details so you can see the picture. So the first case study is basically the degradation of women in India. Now, this could span to many different contexts, but I'll just choose two for today. We're going to view it in a societal context and then the family context. It's like whether you're a mother or a daughter. First, let's dive into the societal context first. So India has constantly reported many cases of sexual harassment against women, even if the woman is just standing by the road. It's like fall into the wrong side of the streets, and it might take a different turn for you. And there are many news articles that cover this as well, but I'll just pick this one that I found from NDTV, where they wrote about a Twitter post that went viral of a husband who shared a scary experience that occurred to his wife in Bengaluru on November 2023. So she was driving around at night. Mind you, she wasn't even alone. In her car, she had two other girls and one man. Because they were all her colleagues, she was just trying to drop them off. Their car was chased down by a bunch of men for a few kilometers. And it only stopped when the wife was smart enough to stop the car on the main road and immediately called the cops. And in the same news article, other people were sharing similar stories that happened to them as well under the same Twitter post. It's very alarming, but not a surprise since there's data on Statista that showed that India ranked highest in the list of dangerous countries for women in 2019. Like, that's insane. And now, in the family context, I read a paper written by Andrew Shastri. It's called Gender Inequality and Gender Discrimination. So she quotes Manu, which is a god in Hinduism. Nothing must be done independently, even in her own house, by a young girl, by a young woman, or even by aged ones. Women must never be autonomous. They must always be subservient to their father when they're young, to their husband when they're old, and to their sons when their master dies. So the same paper has a story circle session where a bunch of girls told their side of the story. And this one session got my attention because you can basically have a link to the quote just now. So this one girl shares that, and I quote, "Boys can sit with their friends as long as they want, but we can't spend much time with our friends. If I want to go out to buy something, my mother won't let me go. If I were a boy, I could have taken or brought anything of my choice. I can go out alone. My mother always goes with me, but I can't take her everywhere. I can't do anything by myself, and I'm dependent on others." Alright, now the next case study is going to be short, but it's about child marriages, specifically in Bangladesh, because according to UNICEF data, Bangladesh is home to the most cases of child marriages in the world. A staggering number of 38 million child brides, with 13 million married before the age of 15. In Mohammed Manjur's paper, the underlying yet major reason is because a prevalent problem in the country due to the lack of information, particularly among Muslim households, which leads parents to believe that it's their religious obligation to arrange for their daughters' marriages when they reach puberty. So as a result, teenage girl marriages to older men are a typical occurrence in Bangladesh's rural communities. And then other factors include poverty, lack of education, and then economic and social status, weakness of the law. They're all these factors into why these parents are marrying their girls off to other families. So consequently, a girl's childhood can be ended by it, and she also loses out on economic prospects, her rights to an education, and her protection from spousal abuse. And there are so many layers that goes on into it. So after listening to all those case studies that are backed with numbers and data, I think it's also worth listening to personal experiences and thoughts so that we can get a more intimate look into this issue. Okay, so joining me here today are two special guests. My fellow MC242 mates as well are Atika and Hassan. Hey guys!
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking your time of the day to join me in today's podcast. So, how are you? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I have an ulcer
Oh.
underneath my
Tongue?
lips.
Lips?
No.
Okay.
No, underneath my... What is this part called?
I think no, it's not gum. Gum is on your teeth.
Oh, I think it's inside of your
Ah.
mouth.
So I'm not
I
eating
think
that.
so. I hope you get that treated.
I hope.
Yeah. All right. So, based on the definitions and historical context that I've just shared, do you guys think that patriarchy is still prevalent in today's context, based on the examples you've seen in your daily lives?
Well, I think patriarchy I think it's quite strong here in Malaysia. I'm not sure it's going to be controversial or what, but in the context of Malay, like our race is very patriarchal.
Yeah.
Yeah, like women have to cook, has to watch, have to take care of every household.
Really raya.
Yeah, right.
Really
Okay.
raya. I just realized.
Yeah.
But in my own family, oh my god, I just realized my dad is like that.
Oh no!
Sudden
But
realization.
because most of the time I help my mom, I wash the dishes, I bring out the food.
Okay, that's
I've
good.
never thought about that before. But then, oh my god, oh no, Abba.
No,
You have to start educating your dad.
Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna marry my girl. I'm gonna raise good children. I'm gonna make sure all my grandchildren.
all are-
Yeah.
So good of you.
Good. Like, yeah, we can see it even if it's not during Raya or like just our daily life. Like we have the women have to cook and serve, and the man was just like either waiting the table to be served, or sometimes when the food already served, you have to like, oh, go call your dad, oh, go call your brother, the food's ready.
Yeah, I've experienced that way too many times.
Yeah,
myself.
why aren't you guys helping us in the kitchen serving? And just like, I don't know, just put it in the plate or something.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, Atika, as a woman, have you ever personally experienced negative effects of the patriarchal system?
Wow. I mean, it could be a lot of time.
Really?
Okay, I mean, let's say about women leadership. So I was applying for this one position, and it's for a leader and
Right.
the head of the department or something. And then I wasn't chosen because I'm a woman and they need a man to lead instead. But for me, why aren't women are given the opportunities or the chance to show their own skills, their specialties and stuff? Because okay, if you're gonna say about women are being emotional so they can't lead properly, it's honestly ridiculous. Okay, I mean, if you're working in some let's say you're working on something, you have to have a rational, like you have to know, okay, this is work, you can't be emotional, so you have to think logically. I mean, it's a common sense. If you're working something, you have to know that, oh, this for this subject you have to be very straightforward, or like you have to be stern or something. Oh, for this thing, let's say about charity, oh, you have to be very empathic, and you have to have like some sense of there's you have to show emotions. So it actually depends on what of the context is, but women have to be given the opportunities to be a leader. Yeah, that's
I
my
agree.
own stand.
I agree with you as a woman myself. Let's see. Okay, what about you, Hassan?
Yes.
Earlier, I mentioned that women aren't the only ones affected by the gender norms from patriarchy. It could be men that are dragged in it as well. Personally, have you ever felt like you benefited from a male-dominated society, or maybe the male-dominated society causes you to feel more pressured to like provide for your family, become head of the household, etc.?
Personally, from my own experience, I believe that from the pressure of being a man, it does apply to me sometimes, because especially whenever my friends they all have knowledge about cars, and I'm not as knowledgeable as them, and somehow whenever they talk about this and that, I feel like I'm a bit
You don't understand.
Less manly?
yeah, less manly.
Ah.
And sometimes in terms of providing, I've had exes before who at the time I feel like I'm providing enough, even though I'm just a boyfriend, I'm not even married to them. But whenever she says like, oh, you don't have money for this, you know, you're such, why should I date someone like you when you have money? And I can date a better person that has money. So I'm like, wow. No, and then I realized that because of society, and somehow, somewhere, that girl is influenced by them, by thinking that if she wants someone, she wants someone that has to have money.
Agreeable.
Can I add something?
Sure.
So you know the statement "men don't cry."
Yes.
Actually, I strongly oppose to that.
I agree.
Every human being, regardless of their gender, they have to show emotion. They have to cry. Because of this statement, it makes the guys can't like say their own whatever like inside of their heart. Like they can't express emotion. If people ask, why are you like keeping this to yourself? Why are you telling people? It's because I'm a man, so I can't cry. I can't show my frustration or anger or something like that.
And then when they penned up,
Yeah,
you know,
I've
it
had personal
exposed.
experience also.
Yeah.
Whenever I cried due to emotional stress or due to being angry, and then I pent out all my anger and I say blah 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 blah, blah, and then she's like, man up, why you like this? Be a man. That guy never cried. That guy also never cried. Why you crying? Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Last, a good example of what Atika said is my dad.
Uh-huh.
I remember when I cried when my grandpa passed away. I cried so bad, but my dad is like, son, man up, be respectful. I'm like, wow. Even thinking about it now, it's like, wow, I'm a bit sad that he would say that to me.
Yeah.
And throughout all my life, he would never show his emotional side.
Actually, talking about it, I have also never seen my own father cry.
Yeah.
I think because they have this perception of if you show like vulnerability,
Mm.
they feel like you're
Weak.
weak.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's actually we welcome them to show their
Yeah.
vulnerability. So we know we can like get close to them, so we can get to know more about them instead of just them keeping it all to themselves.
Yes. And with that being said, I'd like to share a list of groundbreaking accomplishments and advancements in human history that were carried out by none other than women, but are credited to men instead. So first of all, we have Lisa Meitner, who discovered nuclear fission, taken credit by her lab partner named Otto Hahn. She was the one who discovered the true power of uranium, noting that atomic nuclei split during some reactions. Number 2, we have Margaret Keane, original artist / creator of the Big-Eyed Waifs, which also inspired the art style of who we know today as Tim Burton. Her husband, Walter, convinced her that they would make more money if he put his name on the paintings, and she revealed it later in court that her husband threatened to kill her if the secret got out, which she won the case, by the way. Number 3, we have Nettie Stevens, who discovered the connection between chromosomes and sex determination. Despite the breakthrough, her colleague and mentor E.B. Wilson published his papers before her, so he's the one who's often noted for the discovery. And number 4, we have the technology we use the most even till today, Wi-Fi, or wireless communication, who was taught to be discovered by a man, was actually developed by Hollywood actress Hedy Lamarr, which she came up with the idea of frequency hopping, preventing the bugging of military radios. And there are so many more where that came from. You can check out a website link posted in the description of this podcast to find out more about these powerful women that became an icon of just how capable women can be if we, as a society, overlooked past these gender norms that say that women aren't capable of doing things beyond a man's will. So now I'd like to personally suggest what I think are helpful ways that we can do that can slowly and surely make a change if we all act on it together. First of all, it's time that we start embracing positive masculinity. We need to challenge traditional notions of masculinity that reinforce power dynamics and toxic behaviors like men shouldn't cry or express emotions because that's weak and that's illogical, and women are so susceptible to their emotions, that's why they're weak. No, emotions don't make you weak. It shows that you're brave enough to show that you're human. Secondly, educate yourself. Take the time to learn about the issues that women face, including sexism, misogyny, the history, and gender inequality in general. Read books, articles, and listen to women's personal experiences to gain a deeper understanding of the challenges that they encounter. Trust me, it makes a whole lot of difference. Last but not least, for men out there, be an ally. Examine your behavior. Consider how you might behave, or the things that you can say might, or may contribute to this culture of sexism, and try to strive and be more inclusive and respectful in your interactions. A little goes a very long way. So, bottom line, women are the ones who have given birth to you. So it's time to start giving back to these women. And that concludes this week's podcast on the theme of MDG3. Tune in next week where we'll be talking about 2000s fashion. Is it so hot or so not? Stick around to find out more with me as your host, Marissa Nabila. Thank you so much, Atika and Hassan, for joining me today. Till next time.
Yay!
Bye! See ya!
Bye!